back into public session, and as soon as everybody gets where they want to go, we'll start with Curator Sunvolt, and we'll be in public session of the Health Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Steelman. We will get started right away with the Health Affairs Committee, and I will introduce the CEO of MU Healthcare, Jonathan Curtright, who will make a presentation, even though he's back there getting an earful. Jonathan?
Thank you, Curator Sunvolt. Well, it feels like deja vu all over again. We were in this room last year. I was sitting over there, but it's going to be the second rendition of our annual report for MU Healthcare, and it's been a good year. And let's talk about some of the highlights that are out there. Once again, starting with our mission and vision. Once again, our mission is to save and improve life. And in improving life, we do this in our vision of being Missouri's premier academic health system. It's something that we take very seriously. We are the #1 trainer of physicians that tend to stay in the state of Missouri, #1 trainer of nurses, allied health staff, and we know that we have some room to grow in research and discovery, but we want to be, and we think that we have a vision to truly be Missouri's premier academic health system for the state. As far as some key performance outcomes for fiscal year 2018, something that we've been able to do is to make some major investments in the academic support. When we grow, when we perform well, it gives us the latitude and a little bit more creativity in how we are able to fund the School of Nursing, the School of Medicine, the School of Allied Health Professions. This last year, we were able to make a minimum of $21 million of investment in the School of Medicine for academic support, as well as a $3 million contribution to the Sinclair School of Nursing that they were able to put into their kitty for the new facility that hopefully will be coming in the not-too-distant future.
Can we take a question on this?
Of course, you may.
So the School of Medicine, $18 million, was that, I guess I was under the impression that it was $20 million, but whatever the number is that designated to increase the research there? Because I think that you could claim a lot more support for the School of Medicine than just the research component. But was this to be targeted for development and increased research?
Certainly, as you suggest, Curator Phillips, we do provide another nearly $50 million to support the clinical mission within MU Healthcare to the School of Medicine. But this is solely devoted to the School of Medicine and the Dean's office relative to chair support, how we can make major investments in cardiovascular, neurosciences, oncology, and the like. And Patrick, would you like to make any additional comments on the funding for the School of Medicine and academic support for the 18 to $20 million?
I think I just second what Jonathan said. Tomorrow morning, though, we will have a little bit more detailed presentation on funds flow and on research at the School of Medicine, but essentially the $18 million is primarily to support the research mission of the school, and there's an additional approximately $50 million that supports the clinical mission.
Thank you, Curator Phillips. So once again, continued growth is definitely our friend. It allows us to make major investments. I will highlight this represents nearly 20 to 25% of our total profitability this last year. We've been able to reinvest in the academic mission, and it's something we're very proud of.
Jonathan, is that a set formula that you're going to go by, or just a?
Yeah. So the way the 18 for the School of Medicine works is that 10 million of it is guaranteed. It goes over every single month as a funds transfer, and the other, in this case, 8 million is a function of our financial performance, and that it gets trued up, I believe, quarterly by Mike Blair and the finance team as well. So a portion of it is fixed, and a portion of it is a function of our profitability. All right, number two, and something we're very proud of here is our employee engagement scores have gone from the 50th percentile to 70th percentile this last year. It is our goal that we will be the employer of choice in Central Missouri and beyond, and we must make investments in ensuring that this, once again, continues to be a great place to work. Oftentimes, our growth is limited by our ability to recruit nurses and allied health staff. And if we are able to be an outstanding place to work, it's going to continue to make it so that our turnover rates are as low as they are, and we're an outstanding place to work. What about inpatient satisfaction? Our hospital patient satisfaction, we were, for our HCAP scores, our hospital-based patient satisfaction has improved from the 51st percentile to 71st percentile. I can't stress enough how big of a jump this is. It's once you get to the 50th percentile, you're in very, very tight performance, and so it's incredibly difficult to move that. But we've been able to do that every single day, hard work by our physicians, our staff, to improve the patient satisfaction in our hospitals. Our leadership team, we have an outstanding leadership team. It has now been completed. The key leaders on here, Dr. Steve Witt is our Chief Clinical Officer. Once again, I highlight this because the best academic medical systems, best academic medical centers have outstanding physician leaders, and Dr. Witt runs all of our clinical operations and has been a great colleague in moving our operations. Mike Blair joins us from the University of Minnesota and is doing a fantastic job as our CFO. Mike Kohler, thank you, Julia Bernsick, and Express Scripts joins us from Express Scripts. And is doing a bang-up job. Pam Mulholland, our ambulatory services officer. Jennifer May did such a great job, especially with this group, that we promoted her to be the chief compliance officer. And the one that's new on here that many people may not have known is Dr. Jim Stannard, who is the chair of the Department of Orthopaedics and the medical director for the Missouri Orthopaedic Institute, has decided to stay at the University of Missouri, and he's going to be focusing on a lot of our key initiatives that are outside of Boone County, and he will be the chief medical officer for strategic initiatives and the senior associate dean in the School of Medicine. So it's something that Dr. Delafontaine and I are very excited about. So our leadership team's in good shape. Another one of the things that we're excited about is the Tiger Institute. It is truly one of the biggest assets that we've got. It is our stitching together of an academic health system utilizing information technology. Neil Patterson, the founder of Cerner, had a goal of improving the health of his home state by partnering with the land-grant university in that area. And this has been, I would argue, one of the best partnerships that the University of Missouri has had. And by doing this, it improves research, improves education, improves clinical practice. Some things that we're doing to leverage this relationship is that we will have the exact same revenue cycle system as Cerner has. So it'll be simpler to have a bill, schedule your appointment. It'll be integrated with the rest of our electronic medical record. We will also be bringing up Cap Region Medical Center on the exact same instance of this, and then hopefully if we can get a contract signed in the not-too-distant future, Lake Regional Health System will also be coming up on our version of the Tiger Institute Cerner platform. Therefore, once again, making it so much simpler for patients to access our services, and we're not having to do redundant imaging or redundant consultations with subspecialists. This is, once again, it's a way that we can build our system. Doesn't have to be through ownership, but it's a way that we can stitch it together in a way that make it so the patient is the winner. So the Tiger Institute is a key part of our initiative that's out there. We've had some major expansions in our facilities. This is a rendering, frankly, other than the plants that are there, that are in that rendering. It pretty much looks exactly like this now. And so this is the front of University Hospital. Our ED has had about 30 exam rooms. It's now going to be up to 55. We have patients that are literally out. We have hallway examination rooms, which you can imagine is not pleasing, but this is going to make it so that we now have enough space for our emergency department. And in the not-too-distant future, the third floor of this facility will be a 24-bed med psych unit. So it's for psychiatry patients that also also have medical issues, and there's a subspecialty around that, and it's going to be a way that we can do that as well. So that's our expansion going forward with that. We've also been able to make some major investments in the community. We're very proud of the fact that we are now the official sponsor of Marching Mizzou. And why do I mention that? We have the lowest scholarship rate of, I believe, of any band in the SEC or the Big 12. And we've been able to make an investment in scholarships, and it's primarily focused on Marching Mizzou students that have an interest in health-related professions, and it's something that we're very excited about, and we have a 4-year commitment on that. And I also mentioned the cross-country course. We've been able to make I just signed off on this, a $250,000 investment in having a cross-country course that is based right here in central Missouri. Once again, our commitment to athletics, our commitment to the community, and it's a way that we can promote a healthy lifestyle. I could do multiple examples of it, but these are the two that I thought the board may not know about that might be interested in it. A couple of things that are out there relative to value-based care. Missouri Custom is our product that is taking our custom network, our narrow network for the hospital and clinics of the University of Missouri, and it's making it so we can sell that for fully or self-insured companies in central Missouri, in Boone and Cole counties. Our first 2 clients, if you will, on this are going to be Lake Regional Health System as well as Cap Region Medical Center. And these that will add up probably, including dependents, probably 3,000 or 4,000 covered lives that will be wanting to get their care and right within the University of Missouri system. And then we just announced yesterday, or this last week, that we have a partnership with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield of Missouri, where we will be the exclusive provider for fully insured patients or fully insured companies in Boone and Cole counties, and we will be more at risk for that covered life. This is our attempt to once again go a little bit more at risk, stick our toe in the water, and learn how we can provide the care and have a little bit more risk going forward. But something we're very excited about, and I think will be great for our patients. But once again, it's another way that we can improve the number of commercial lives that are here in central Missouri coming to get their care at MU Healthcare. In terms of financial performance, this last year was a record year. We broke over $1 billion of net patient revenue for the first time, and I'll talk more about the why on that in just a little bit. But our operating income also continued to be very strong. Our margins are well over 10%, and sometimes it's easy to just kind of brush over that and act like that's everybody's doing that. That is top 90th percentile performance. And our physicians, our nursing staff, our administrative staff work every day to make it so that this can happen, and we continue to say yes and continue to grow and hold our costs down. But our financial performance has been very strong. One of the things that I think that's important to know as you analyze this is kind of like, well, big deal about the financial performance. Well, let's talk about it. Why is that? What's our scale story, if you will? Well, our scale story, this is our market share for inpatient services since 2013. And it's gone from 22% to nearly 29%. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about a basis of 90,000 discharges, that represents nearly $200 million of annual net patient revenue. Every single year. So as we grow, this is a dramatic increase in our net patient revenue. It's allowed us to grow our residents and fellows from 430 to nearly 500, because all that has to get funded now by the hospital, because there's no, anytime you add a resident or fellow now, none of that is going to come from the government. It hasn't historically in the past, but now it's been capped. So we have to be able to get this through operations. By doing this growth, it's allowed us to increase our annual academic support nearly 3x, and our net operating income has increased from $40 million to over $100 million, and our profitability has gone from 6% to 10%. Growth has been our friend, and it is very much a key part of our scale story, and a big part of why we've been able to perform the way we have. In terms of our strategic goals, that's a snapshot of 2018, but as far as a snapshot for what we're trying to get done in 2019, once again, going back to our mission and our vision of being the premier academic health system in the state of Missouri, I think we've starting to, but we even more so need to have a sustainable and transparent performance-based academic support model. We've got a challenge with NIH funding. We've got a challenge with AAU funding, and we must be able to make more investments in the academic enterprise. And working with Dean Delfontaine, Chancellor Cartwright, and President Choi, I believe we can do this, but it needs to be in a very thoughtful way, and that's something we're going to be working on in this next year. Secondly, I think the translation and precision medicine complex is truly transformative. And it's a place where vet med, agriculture, the School of Medicine, School of Nursing, School of Engineering can all play in the sandbox of the TPMC, all in the context of the clinical enterprise, right? And anything that we can do to integrate research, education, and clinical practice in one spatial location will be a game changer. There will be some level, we believe, of clinical services that will also be provided in the TPMC, and it's going to make it so that moving research from the bench to the bedside will be done in a very thoughtful manner. So this is something we're very, very excited about, and we've been able to identify some space very, very close to our University Hospital campus. So that's the second one.
Before you go on.
Yeah, please.
Am I on? You're in Kansas City. You want to say anything about TPMC and opportunities for contributions from institutions in Kansas City or not?
Yes, we do. In fact, the partners here that include Stowers, St. Luke's, and Children's Mercy, and even with KU are possible. Just yesterday, Chancellor Cartwright, Provost Ramchand, and Chancellor Molly Agrawal visited Stowers Institute to talk about partnership opportunities for collaborative research related to precision medicine, and also exploring faculty appointments at the university. We have a lot to offer, and those partnerships are going to be critical for the TPMC and PMI.
So let me just be pointed for the folks in Kansas City. There is lots of opportunity for contribution. Don't expect funding because the actual center is going to be in Columbia, but lots of collaboration. And I want to make a point of that because Moon has been committed from the very beginning that it's going to be collaborative with all 4 campuses. They have something to contribute. And I seem to need to remind anybody that comes from Columbia of that point. Every time someone makes a presentation, they're focused on the disciplines in Columbia. But I know that the university has a commitment to be collaborative on this.
We do, and all 4 chancellors are very committed to that, and you'll see some of the outcomes as we roll out the partnerships with partners throughout the state. So thank you very much, Curator Phillips.
Thank you for that addition. We certainly are constantly looking for ways that we can partner with UMSL and with UMKC, and I think that you'll be seeing that in the not-too-distant future.
And Missouri University of Science and Technology.
Right. They've got things that they can bring forward, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. As far as some investments in facilities, we've got some challenges that are out there. We will be purchasing land. We've already purchased one plot of land. We will be purchasing another, but we will have 2 additional primary care locations in Columbia. Primary care has been and will continue to be a key part of our strategy. We are in a strong master facility space planning process right now. I took a picture. I showed the picture right off the bat, the picture on the left of University Hospital. This facility, as I said in the Health Affairs Committee a couple weeks ago, this building was built in 1956. This is where 230 of our 340 beds are. This was before the advent of the internet. Electronic medical records, flexible ICU and med surgery rooms. It's an outstanding chassis. It's served us well, but eventually we're going to have to be making some investments and replacements. So we're doing some master facility space planning on that. And then the building on the right, the Women's and Children's Facility, that is a key part of our mission. Our number of deliveries has gone from 1,600 to 2,500 in the last 3 years. And our neonatal intensive care unit patients coming from all over central Missouri and beyond has gone from an average daily census of 30 to nearly 60 this last week. We are simply out of space in much of our chassis. So, we're putting together a master facility space plan and work with Canon Design as well as our system colleagues and our campus colleagues. But putting that out there is something we're going to need to think about for the future. We're going to be making, we've broken ground, if you will, to fit out the last bit of shelled space in the patient care tower of University Hospital. We will be adding 6 incremental operating rooms, as well as all of the pre and post rooms that go along with our operating rooms. And as I mentioned before, we'll be adding a third floor, or within the third floor of the West Wing, we'll be adding 24 medicine psychiatry beds as well. So these are some of the facilities that are out there. Key point is we're nearing the end of our additional capacity. We have about 600 beds, 643 total capacity. This is something for the future to think about. We are also, as everybody I believe in the room knows, we are in due diligence process right now to consider the purchase of the St. Mary's facility in Jefferson City as well as Audrain in Mexico. This is ongoing. We are working with Huron as well as Bassberry, our legal consultants, to come up with do the due diligence and ensure that we're coming up with a good go, no-go decision on this. I believe that this will probably take the next several months to do that. We will not be rushed in this in any way, shape, or form, as we would make a recommendation to the board hopefully in the not too distant future. But this is the due diligence process that is out there as well as we create our academic health system. Final slide, the key performance metrics that are out there. Once again, our financial performance, we want that to be at budget, and that's going to be basically a significant increase from our budget from last year because our performance has been strong. Our patient satisfaction, employee engagement, we want to be in the top third of all academic health centers in terms of the quality and accountability survey. To me, it's the best assessment of the performance of all academic health centers. That's our goal. We want to be there every single year. And then we would need to be able to make major investments, once again, in our academic support. So that is my hopefully brief update on the state of the union, if you will, for MU Healthcare. And we, on behalf of the leadership of MU Healthcare, we are grateful to the Curators. It has been a very, very solid year by nearly any metric we have, and we're grateful for your support and constantly pushing us to do the right thing for our patients and our students.
Any questions, thoughts, ideas? If not, Jonathan, I know sometimes it faces the gauntlet coming in front of curators in different rooms, but congratulations to you and your team. Great work, outstanding work, and your contributions, not only to the community, but to the state of Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to invite up Dr. Ted Choma, who we are going to look at amending on the CRR rules, CRR 440.040. He will give an explanation. Dr. Choma is with Missouri Orthopaedic Institute, one of our great surgeons, spine surgeons.
Thank you. Good morning to all the curators. Can I get the next slide? So the background for those of you who may be new to the board is that CRR 440.040 was developed back in the 1970s, and it governs our university physicians' practice. It created a practice plan by which the faculty physicians operate as a group, and it oversees all of our financial and contracting obligations. It allows our faculty physicians to be efficient in their clinical practices and allows us to see more patients, confer care that is optimal, and that further enhances our educational and research opportunities. Once the CRR was created in the 1970s, it was updated in 1987, then not again for 30 years. And last year I came before you with some recommended changes to the CRR. We were successful in navigating that process. And so we, along with our university legal team, had another look at the collected rules, and we have some updated amendments for your consideration. The updates this year that the members of the university physicians, as well as our School of Medicine dean, our chancellor, our president, have all approved, and is for your consideration, include the following. It removes the gender pronouns and makes them gender neutral. It clarifies who is a university physician's voting member. That is, we have some physicians and other providers who are part-time or don't have any clinical duties, and this language clarifies that. We also update some of the titles that have changed over the last 30 years in our health system to make them current. It allows specifically for electronic voting within our membership. Back in the 1970s, that wasn't contemplated. And then it defines plan income because, and this is probably the one substantive change that we're really putting forward to the curators. Back in the 1970s, when this plan was created, all of our university physicians' income was collections on fee for service. And today, we have many of our physicians who are providing care, but not under fee-for-service contracts. They may be providing care under professional services agreements in which they don't actually bill an individual insurance company, but there's a lump sum payment from an entity, such as an employer or a hospital. And so this simply accounts for that other way that our physicians will bring in clinical income. The voting process, again, this is analogous to what we did last year, was that we had our management committee put forward these recommendations to the members. This is all outlined in our collected rules. It's specified. And so we had a voting period a few months ago for our university physician members. As you can see, we have, at the time, we had 543 eligible members to vote. We needed 272 for a quorum, and we needed 2/3 to be in the assent. We got 280 votes, and we had 96% in the assent. And so those changes were approved and forwarded then to Dean Delafontaine, our chancellor, our president, and now, as the last step in the process, to you, the curators. Pending your questions, that's all I have.
Any questions, thoughts, ideas? Then I need,
Let me ask a question,
go
Dr.
ahead, Marcy.
Shoma. In the plan, this existed in the plan earlier, but there's a dean's office account where 6% of the gross income is allocated to the office of the dean, first of all for research, and there's a couple of other categories. How much does that normally amount to per year?
Well, our revenues the last few years have been right around $200 million, and so 6% of that off the top.
Is that paid throughout the year, end of the year?
Throughout the year. Mm-hmm. It's budgeted annually, and our collections have grown as our number of physicians have grown, as the entire health system has grown.
And that's different than MU Health Care's payment to the
That's
dean's
correct.
office?
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Then I need a motion to move to approve the amendment for CRR 440.040, subject to technical corrections by General Counsel regarding references for the University of Missouri, Columbia, and the University of Missouri system.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion out of the full board? Curator Sunvolt, I'd recognize you for a motion to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and the collected rules and regulation 440.040 is amended, subject to the General Counsel's office technical correction of some terms.
And one last item for Health Affairs Committee. I need a motion to approve minutes from June 11th, 21st, August 21st from the committee meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chairman, that ends the report from the Health Affairs Committee.
Thank you very much, Curator Sunvolt. We're going to go to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. Now, Curator Lehman, the Governance, Resources, and Planning Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governance, Resource, and Financial Plan, and gosh,
Curator
it just
Lehman.
rolls off the tongue.
Curator Lehman, can I ask if you can pull the
Oh, yeah,
mic?
I'm
Yes.
sorry. The Governance, Resources, and Planning Committee has one action item today. Today we'll hear from the highlights regarding the University of Missouri Strategic Plan. These plans have been a culmination of a lot of hard work by the chancellors, provost, and university communities system-wide. They were thoroughly developed with the intention to achieve excellence and drive positive results in the areas of student success, research and creative works, engagement and outreach, inclusivity, and planning, operations, and stewardship. The plans will be supported by the university with the expectation of showing a clear return on investment through growth metrics. One thing I want to mention is, in the past, we have never brought this item before the board, and I credit President Choi for saying, hey, we want to get this in front of you all and have you vote on it. Another item related to the growth metrics, which we've talked a lot about, the plan is to have regular updates on our progress throughout the coming years. So at this time, I'll go ahead and introduce President Choi.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. These plans have identified strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats to the universities as well as key areas in which we can achieve excellence. It's broken out by the 5 Missouri compacts that you mentioned, and the chancellors and their team have done a very good job of developing plans that are aspirational, that actually speaks to what we want to be as a university. And it took a lot of hard work, not only from their team, but they engaged the faculty, students, staff, as well as their alums and their donors to see if the messages that they are developing have resonance with them. To catalyze and support these plans last week, together with your support, we've identified $260 million in investments for these strategic priorities. Going forward, we are challenging the chancellors and their entire team to match using university resources and then match again using philanthropic support. We're very excited about these plans, and I look forward to learning more about how they are going to implement the plans by having frequent updates that we can share with the board. With that, let me invite the chancellors up in order to give us highlights of their plans in those 5 Missouri compacts that we spoke of. Let's start with Chancellor Cartwright from Mizzou.
Thank you. I really want to start by thanking everybody that was involved in the process, getting us here to where we're putting forward a strategic plan that really talks about how we re-envision a flagship for the future. We have spent a lot of time talking with many constituents about this, and focusing on, first and foremost, what are we doing for our student success? We want to increase the number of completions that we give out annually to 10,000 by 2023 from a current 9,000 roughly. And that really is about new programs, revising existing programs, and thinking about what are the needs for workforce within the state. And to be able to accomplish a lot of our other goals in student success, we really want to think about the university and how we increase the thriving environment for our students, the engagement, sense of belonging, all of the things that we need to be doing in support, community, and mentorship that allows students to be incredibly successful on our campus. Those types of activities are key to being able to achieve our goals of increasing our 6-year graduation rates to 74% in 2023 from currently 69%, and also increasing our 6-year graduation rate for Pell graduates to 58% in 2023 from 53% currently. A percentage increase in graduation rate is a significant increase, and so this is actually a pretty aggressive goal for us to accomplish in those 5 years. In terms of research and creative works, we want to create an environment that recommits itself to what it means to be a public research university, an AAU university, one that values scholarship of all kinds, and that creates a culture and an environment that is conducive to the excellence that we strive for. And to do that, we're looking at a number of different ways of thinking about our incentive programs. Also, we're focusing on our colleges and school level in that they each have to prepare what we're calling a strategic plan for their research. Those plans are due, draft plans are due next week, and full versions of those plans are due by November 15th.
Alex,
Yes, Curator?
just a quick question as you move forward. The goals that are established here, are they in alignment with AAU metrics or U.S. News and World Report rankings?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how they're aligned?
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll get a little bit more in that in detail, but what you will see is that if we can double our research expenditures, we would move into the second quartile from the bottom. So we want to move up in the AAU, and that's really the goal in 5 years. So in terms of U.S. News and World Reports, the previous slide, I highlighted a couple things, 6-year graduation rates and also Pell-eligible students and their graduation rate. There was a change made in U.S. News and World Reports where they actually start to look at what happens to Pell-eligible students, and we need to be very cognizant of those graduation rates and retention rates, and that's one of the reasons that's highlighted in here. So yes, we are thinking about the overall view for AAU and for other rankings to make sure that we are addressing those things. Good. Yep. Oh, you have a question?
Just to share how difficult that's going to be, so illustrates how aspirational we are. This is in the midst of a very flat federal funding atmosphere. And so it's going to take a lot of work to grab that market share. So it is very aspirational.
Yeah. And so doubling from where we are now, it really, we're going to have a concerted effort, very focused in specific areas, and thinking about how we expand the activities currently going on in the institution, and also attracting new talent and new activities.
Just one follow-up question to that. So in our based on the projections, whatever it is, 2023, where are rankings now? Where do you project that we may be? How many categories or spots do you think we can jump if we accomplish these goals?
So for U.S. News and World Reports, I'd have to actually look at that a little more closely, because we just got that analysis in the last week or so, because it just came out. Yes, President?
No, go ahead, and then I'll add something.
Yeah. For AAU, we can look at where we currently are and in the terms of the quartiles for publics, and we can then think about where we're going to be. And our goal is, of course, to get into the next quartile up. We're in the bottom quartile now. We want to move up to the next quartile. That actually would be a significant increase for us, and that'll drive a lot of other rankings overall. Okay? The other thing we want to do is, of course, national centers as part of that increase. And the reason we want national centers is that it grows the entire environment that you're in. And that then lifts up everybody within that institution. And it also has people become more aware of what's going on at the university. And of course, a key part to that is our opening of the TPMC and what might be possible there. We have additional goals that have to do with scholarship in terms of journal publications and also national awards. One of the things that I've noticed about our institution is that we have a lot of faculty who are tremendous faculty who really have the number of publications, the number of amount of funding that should correspond to many more awards than what they have, and we need to have a concerted effort in making sure they're receiving those awards because we do have the people who are worthy of those awards. Our engagement plan is, of course, to look at everything that we do across all of Missouri, improve health care and access to health care. This is with MU Health and MU Extension working together to reach our schools and our colleges, using our schools and our colleges across the entire state. We are looking at additional ways to engage with children and of all ages to improve education and to improve the accessibility to higher education, and also developing partnerships that are going to continue to help to drive the economic and workforce development for the state and to drive further that impact that we have on the state economically. In terms of inclusive excellence, we are looking at how do we continue to move, improve the environment at Mizzou. One of the main goals there is just to look at how many people are responding to our climate survey, to scale up our successful Citizenship at Mizzou program, develop new programs that allow us to drive those things forward, and also to bring together communities really looking at civil conversations around national, regional, and local issues. This is thinking about making sure that the university is welcoming people with all different perspectives of thought. And then finally, in terms of how we're going to do all of this, it's about our planning and operations and stewardship. We're interested in having that safe environment, but to be able to do that, we need to be thinking about how we do things differently. And we certainly want to have that, first and foremost, our safe environment for everything that's going on at the university. But in addition, we want to ensure that our strategies drive our budget and not the other way around. And that we want to make sure that everything that we're doing in our resource allocation model drives the metrics that we want to drive that we presented in the previous few slides. And that really is going to require us to create an environment that holds the people accountable. And that's something that we're committed to, and we will continue to think about how do we become more efficient, how do we reallocate, put our resources where they should be, and then achieve all of the goals that we set forward in the other compacts. So I will stop there.
Alex, I have a question
Yes.
for you. I know we've talked a lot about financial accountability, but going back to the slide on excellence in research and creative works, given that doubling the research expenditures is a very aspirational goal, what is the plan to hold accountability in those areas?
It's a great question. One of the things that we talk about in the plan is that every school has to have a strategic plan around research. That means every dean is held accountable to those goals that they're setting in their own plans. And we're not dictating exactly what they set as their goals, but collectively we have to reach the goals we set for the university. And they will be held accountable for the goals they've set in their plans. And that will be through our new provost, Provost Ramchand. She'll make sure that they're held accountable. But it's important.
So you got close to this on your last slide in talking about stewardship. But what will you be doing on your campus to make sure that the development office aligns with the strategic plan so that potential philanthropy can be guided to where we need the money most as opposed to everybody wants to build a building, but we may not need a building.
Yeah, a very good question, and we probably should have put something in this. We only could put so many in the slides. We were only asked to put a
Right.
few in there. But we do have within our plan, in each of the compacts, we talk about the role of development. In research, it has to be aligned with what we're trying to do in research. In student success, it has to be aligned with the things we're trying to do in student success, our scholarships, the other things we want to do. So we have plans that development has to reach, help us to attain all of those goals that we have set, and they will be held accountable for reaching those goals. So that's a very good point. Thank you.
I read in the national press more and more that some other universities are really getting philanthropy to do research and
Yeah.
make contributions to. So I guess I would hope that each of our campuses keeps that in mind.
I'll mention more about this tomorrow also, about what philanthropy is doing for our research. I'll talk about that tomorrow in detail. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Chancellor Cartwright. Next up is Chancellor Molly Agrawal from UMKC.
Good morning. It's amazing how similar a lot of the strategies are between what Alex just presented, what I'm going to show you. A lot of the work here on the strategic plan at UMKC was already in progress by the time I landed here on campus. So it is the collective work of all the stakeholders that are on a campus. And my main contribution here as incoming chancellor was to see how to package it and make sense out of all the strategies that were put forth. And I suggested that we package them in about 5 pillars that I'll show you in a second. And it turns out that I learned about the Missouri compacts after that, and they aligned perfectly with those 5 Missouri compacts. So I guess I was thinking right. So here are the 5 pillars: exceptional student success and experience, a thriving discovery enterprise, which is research and scholarship, transform the region with impactful engagement, foster multiculturalism, globalism, diversity, and inclusion, and a strong, resilient people, process, and physical infrastructure. Underlying all of this is a foundational commitment to the people who work here, who make all of this possible. That's a faculty and a staff. And without taking care of some of the issues there and the development they need, we cannot really produce on these 5 pillars. And what do we commit to in terms of deliverables? And the word here, key word here is transformational. A transformational undergraduate and graduate education, solutions to grand challenges that, especially those that are more relevant to our community here that we serve via discovery, and then enhancements to the social, cultural, health, and economic prosperity of our region and of our state. So the 2 key words that underlie this whole strategic plan are excellence, pursuit of excellence in everything we do, and transformational changes in terms of delivery. So I'll go through some of these pillars very quickly. And what we have done, we haven't really put all the strategies up here, but I've given you the metrics we'll be pursuing. So as we look at UMKC right now, we have about 17,000 students, actually a little bit less than that now, and 3,000 of those are dual credit. So if you want people on the ground here full-time, it's closer to about 13,000, 14,000 in that range. If you look at the MSA that we serve, it's about 2 million people. For the MSA that size, this is too small a university. We need to be bigger to serve the needs of this community. And also, an increase in enrollment will help with us on the fiscal side as well. So we have very aggressive stretch goals here. We want to go from 17,000 to 24,000 in 10 years, which would right-size the university for the size of the community it serves.
Dr. Agrawal, could I ask you a question on this? And you and I have discussed this. UMKC is an unusual institution in that it has a relatively small undergraduate enrollment compared to the graduate schools, and it's been my thought, but I'd like to know yours, that this increase in enrollment really needs to focus not just on numbers of students, but on undergraduates.
You're absolutely right. Most of this growth will come from the undergraduates. There will be some growth concurrently on the graduate side as we also get to Pillar 2 and increase the research enterprise. But a lot of this growth will come from the undergraduate side.
And the thinking then is you have more undergraduates on the UMKC campus, you have more of a campus life, and you have an institution that is better fulfilling what this community, I think, wants, which is a vibrant urban institution.
Exactly right. And you will see this, at the bottom bullet, you'll see that piece as well. Now, to increase enrollment, the two ways you do it. Number one, you get new students, and actually we're doing well with that. We got a lot more new students this year. And we'll have to keep doing that by growing in strategic areas, not across the board, strategic areas, better marketing, and as we are discovering, better scholarshiping. And we were not on par in terms of scholarships with all the people we compete with. But the other big piece is retention. So it's almost like a hole in the bucket. If you keep pouring in from the top, but if you have a hole, then you never change the level. And so we have to work really, really hard on the retention piece and do more individualized kind of education using data-driven education. It's almost like now we do personalized medicine, and this is personalized education based on the academic DNA, if you would, of the person, given all the background. And there's enough data now collected on each student, even before they enter. The companies that do that can help us tailor education for each individual student. 6-year graduation rates have to go up, both for undergraduate, for full-time students, first-time full-time, as well as transfer students. We need to make sure that we talk to a community and see what the workforce needs are today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 15 years from now, and make sure we put the programs in place to meet those needs. And then elevate the sense of community belonging and pride to Curator Steelman's point. We need to build more of a campus, which is a residential campus, which has a sense of belonging. And I'll talk more about that in the highlights of the campus.
Quick question before you move off the slide. We have the Atterbury Student Success Center here on campus, and maybe the first one in the system to emphasize that. President Choi led a delegation to ASU to look at their system of online learning, and in the process, I think, learned how much investment they're making in in counseling of students. They invest a lot in that, and their success rate is actually very good because of that. Is there a part of this, I like the pillar, is there a part of this to increase our ability to counsel academically and also those who are now getting online in their life experiences?
So the academic part especially, you're right on. The institutions that have made big changes in the retention rates are the ones that have invested heavily in terms of advising and counseling and tutoring and supplemental instruction. So once you get the student in, that's not enough. You got to take them by the hand without lowering any standards and help them get to the stage so that they can walk across. So an institution that we have been following very closely is Georgia State University, which is another urban university in the middle of Atlanta. And they're the leaders in this nationally, and how they have reformed and totally transformed the advising and counseling and tutoring, where they have moved the graduation rates 20% points in the space of 8 years. So it's just been transformational. In my previous life, I visited with them several times, put some of the experts on retainers for my campus, and I intend to do similar things here. So it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. It has been done, but we need to focus on it, because that's one part that oftentimes gets overlooked. We focus too much on getting new students in, but not as much in making them successful.
So one other question, this can be a yes or no. Pell Grant recipients, historically, there isn't too much of a history here, but historically have lower achievement. Mm-hmm. Will there be extra assistance for Pell Grant recipients so that we can make sure that they're as successful as possible?
Yes, underrepresented minorities.
That's a good answer.
And Pell Grants both, and I'll come to that in the other pillar on inclusion.
Okay, thanks.
Discovery research and research enterprise, we really need to do much more in terms of the research enterprise we have here, and we intend to double that in the next 10 years. That will require an investment, but also it also requires rearrangement of the support services we have internally for the faculty who are already here. We have some very, very talented faculty that can do much, much more if we had the right infrastructure put in place. So we'll be working on that as well. And then you see the publications that will go up concurrently. National awards, exactly what Alex was talking about. We're going to put a system in place for the talented faculty that we have to promote them for national awards, because if we don't do that, nobody else is going to do that. So we're going to work on that. Need to have a reward process in place. All undergraduate students need to have research experience, because critical thinking is becoming more and more important. And then also on the side of inventions, I think we can do much more on inventions and licensing of those inventions to the community. Impactful engagement, again, started meeting with Kansas City employers and the regional employers related to what are the job markets that exist today and will exist in the future. We do want urban engagement of our students. We want service learning for 90% of our students in 10 years, undergraduate students. I would love to see the day where every single student who graduates from UMKC has had experiential learning already behind them. Number of volunteer hours to go up, alumni and donor engagement needs to go up. We're too low right now. And then foster partnership with key organizations locally. We have partners on Hospital Hill. We have MRI, we have Stowers, but also partnering with the 4 universities within the system so that we leverage our strengths along with theirs, and so we can do better collectively. We pride ourselves on this campus as a campus that welcomes all. There's a slogan here that says all are welcome, but we can do much better on that. We need to increase the percentage of underrepresented minority students up to 25%, which is more the regional number in terms of the demographics of the area. Same thing here, it's not just enrolling them, it's also making them successful. So those numbers have to go up too, and they should be on par with the general student population. And so you'll see the same thing for 6-year graduation rates. That will require special investments and special help for those students. And that's, by the way, that is exactly where the student population growth will come from. If you look at trends in national demographics, student growth will come from underrepresented minorities and first-gen students. And those are the populations that need a little bit extra help. So we need to get ready as institutions to invest in that. Otherwise, we will be the ones at the losing end. To do all of this, we need a strong and resilient infrastructure. We know the vagaries of budgets. We cannot predict everything, but we need to have a financial house in shape, and that's the composite financial index needs to move up. We also need to get to a mindset where we are not just reactive to our finances, but we do financial planning for the next 3 to 5 years, so we have a runway, and our finances, our strategies drive our finances as much as possible. And we need to get philanthropic giving up that was mentioned earlier. I would like to get to an average of $100 million a year. We're closer to about 30 to 40 right now, but this is a very philanthropic community, and if we do things right, I think they will step up and help. So, that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. There may be more at the end. Let me ask Chancellor Christopher Maples from Missouri S&T to come up and give his plan.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the curators and President Choi for starting this, for getting it going, for providing a lot of the impetus for it, and let me really thank the committees that worked on our campus to do so much to put all of this together. I'm going to assume in many respects that you have read through this, you've seen it, you've seen the kinds of things that we intend to do, and to a certain extent I'm going to talk a lot more about what we have already started doing with relation to trying to achieve some of these goals, and my goal is to be here for no more than 5 minutes. If you ask questions, I'll not a problem. We can do this. In terms of having our 100% undergraduates participate in experiential learning, we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to employer satisfaction. And I have to read an email that came in yesterday related to employer satisfaction that I think says an awful lot about how we really work with the industry. We had a group of students that went to the SAE Commercial Vehicles Conference in Chicago. We were one of 3 universities invited to that conference. And a senior program manager stopped by where we were doing our presentation. And the general take was they couldn't believe undergraduates were doing all this stuff because a lot of other places graduate students are doing it. And a senior manager dropped by our place and the quote was, "We're going to expand our recruiting beyond Purdue and Rose-Hulman. Their grads are smart, but they can't do stuff." We do stuff, and you're going to see a lot of do stuff in terms of how we go and how we move forward with all of this. And that's an important aspect of this, and it's going to continue to focus both on undergraduate and graduate. The kinds of things that we're already doing in terms of helping with student success, pick up on what President Choi has done and what Mizzou has done with a lot of the Pell eligible. We have a different approach to this, dealing with our student population. So one of the things that we're doing is we're going to waive the application fee for students applying for this coming year. $50 is actually a fair amount, and for Pell and near Pell eligible students, we want them to take a chance. We want them to take a look at us and be aspirational themselves about coming to us. So we're going to waive it for everybody, frankly, and just see if we can work with that. We're going to work with a Pell and near Pell eligible band. One of the things that we really have to work on is our graduation rates. They're too low, and as it turns out, if you are a full-time student for federal funding and for scholarships, it's 12 credit hours a semester. That's a 5-year plan to begin with. And so our goal is to get more people into the 15 and 16-year range. And so we've taken a look at having students who are paying for 14 credit hours be able to get 15 and 16 for free, as a way of encouraging them to take more, for them to not have to work, to have to pay for more. That's basically a 12.5% tuition reduction for a student taking 16 credit hours. And that's an important thing. And we're doing it for both Pell and near Pell. So it's both of those in terms of that student success. We have hired 2 more professional advisors. We've completely revamped our first-year experience. It's no longer freshman engineering. It's a complete first-year experience, and we have completely redone that. And we are implementing a whole series of finish line scholarships that our trustees are very excited about in terms of having students be able to have money available, not as loan, not as an emergency thing, but as honest-to-goodness scholarships. If they're very close, they need $500 or $1,000, and it's surprising how many times students need that amount of money for their 5th year or so in order to get done. So you see the kinds of things that we're already working on. We've already implemented some others, and we're going to be looking very hard at continuing our student success.
Before you move off that slide,
Yes, sir.
Did you mean to move off that slide already?
I can move back.
So on the distance learning,
Yes, sir.
I know that you have a pretty robust program for non-traditional students and workplace, because you've got some contracts with people, or I should say, major employers around the country.
Yes, sir.
And is that included in the 6% currently? Because I would think that if you included all of the programs that you have beyond your traditional on-campus students, it would be more. And then secondly, whether it's 6% or not, getting to 15% in 5 years does not seem like a very ambitious goal. So would you speak to those 2 points?
I can't tell you if the 6% includes some of the contracts that we do in terms of that learning. The distance that we do is not really online. I mean, and just so you know, it's basically a lot of live delivery or out-of-phase delivery, but it still deals with a substantial lecture component. We have not moved a lot of online classes, and what we hope to do is be able to partner within the system in order to have students be able to pick up more online classes, particularly if they are on a co-op. And let me define co-op. Co-op is during a semester, internships are during the summer. And so students get a little bit out of line, they get out of sequence when they're on a co-op, and therefore they extend their time to graduation as well.
Maybe we're not using the same terminology, but Boeing is an example that you have training for Boeing employees.
We have some.
And do they have to come to Rolla for that?
No, they do not.
So
But what I want-
online/distance learning would include those courses?
It should, but I'm not sure that we have as much as I would like to have with Boeing and some of the larger companies. We had more that we delivered when I was in Oregon with Boeing at Seattle, but we did that on site with Boeing. We actually used Boeing employees to teach Boeing employees, so they were able to use proprietary data.
Are you comfortable with 15% in 5 years?
Probably not. I mean, I suspect we'll exceed that. It more than doubles where we are.
Okay, thanks.
It's 150% more than where we are, so that. In terms of research creative works, I will tell you that our main goal is to end up in R1, which is the highest classification in the Carnegie classification of research institutions. The last thing I saw related to that is that you're roughly at $56 million per year in expenditures. There was no differentiation. I'd also seen one that was $40 million a year in federal awards that come into the university, and awarding roughly 50 PhDs per year. There is no peer institution of ours that is Carnegie R1. And so, I think trying to catch up to peers is to take off on where you are, setting our sights a little bit low. I'd rather exceed our peers and be that university that moves into more of a R1. We've taken a huge step in moving along these directions by hiring a new Vice Chancellor for Research, Dean of Graduate Studies, who will work closely with the faculty and is going to have a lot of support to figure out how to move this. Yes, sir.
To do that, though, this is a leading question, I'm not sure I'm right. So it seems to me that to achieve R1, which I think would be remarkable and fantastic, you'll have to do more than change executive level. You'll have to make significant hires of faculty, particularly academy members, or to some extent. Do you think that's right? Or
there's yes and no with that, Chair Steelman. I think we, as a university, have to do a little more Moneyball approach to how we go after faculty members. So I suspect that we are going to work with our trustees, who are very interested in supporting faculty and faculty research, to do 2 or 3 different things. One is to have specialized instrumentation. We have a broad range of engineering opportunities, broader than most any other university, especially one our size. There are some specialized instrumentations and facilities that will bring people together collaboratively. So you see the 2 nationally recognized externally funded research centers. Part of that will be driven by facilities and equipment. The other thing is that I think that there's a lot of interest in hiring people to come in with at an associate professor level who are building their careers and working forward. When I was doing my own research, and I did a fair amount, it was really important to me to have a place where I could build a program, where I had the support to build that program and to take off and go, and to make that promotion to full professor coming in the door. So I think we can find some really good people out there at that level, especially if we're working closely with our trustees and alumni to provide professorships at the associate professor level. And we will need to do not just broadly across the board, but we'll probably need to hire cohorts. We'll need to hire 2 or 3 people in a field in order to have them work together and build.
If I can add, it's not just a matter of hiring faculty. It's enabling your existing faculty to become more productive.
Correct.
By allowing those who are more research active to have teaching releases, having those faculty members who are not as research active teach more. And as a comparison, we discussed this before, Missouri S&T has 314 tenure track faculty, and the total amount of research that is being performed is at $37 million. When we visited Arizona State University, I looked at their electrical engineering department with 75 faculty, and they do $37 million worth of research. Now, they don't train as many students as you do as a university, but we need to have a very focused and strategic approach of workload distribution to enable that to happen, in addition to
Absolutely.
hiring new faculty.
Absolutely, and hiring research faculty and
That's
allowing
right.
research faculty to come in and pick up and run with these facilities. But we are doing a workload redistribution. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
That's
Maybe if you captured some of those lectures on video, that would release the time of those professors the next year to do more research.
And we have the facilities and ability to do that.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Engagement and outreach, we will continue to do a lot of work on engagement and outreach. One of the things I did recently was I signed a memorandum of understanding with a local organization, the Kaleidoscope Discovery Center, which does an awful lot of not just science and robotics, but they also do music and other things that are really gifted students in the general area. We have done well with Project Lead the Way, and we have worked really hard to do a lot of outreach into the rural part of Missouri. We feel pretty compelled to be that university that can reach down towards into the Ozarks and down towards Arkansas. It's a huge academic desert. There was a recent publication talking about how far away some of those students are from university support and university resources. We feel very, very compelled to continue to reach out in those areas. In inclusive excellence, we will continue to build up in this area. We have one of the things that we have now is I have a Chancellor's Advisory Committee for African American Recruitment and Retention. The person who is on that committee is now a member of our Board of Trustees as one of the things going forward. We also have hired a new diversity student recruiter. We are putting additional efforts into getting diversity hires on our campus. One of the fortunate things about having occasionally a football team that goes to interesting places is that I am leaving tomorrow afternoon late to head down to Tuskegee. We're playing Tuskegee. Not only is it a historic university, and just I wouldn't want to miss it, but they have a new president, Dr. Lily McNair, and our dean has been talking to some of their deans, and we are looking at some collaborative opportunities with Tuskegee, up to and including in the biological sciences where they actually do some PhDs, having some of their PhDs candidates who are ABD be able to come up and teach while working ABD, trying to get some adjunct faculty members from Tuskegee on some of our student committees, really try to engage at areas where they will be able to have a lot of their students be successful with them too. In terms of planning, operations, and stewardship, we're going to continue to do a lot of things related to our facilities. You'll hear a little bit about that, one of which is that we have really invested in upgrading some of the larger lecture halls on campus. We have a lecture hall in the basement of the chemistry building in Shrink Hall that is notorious among alumni and students, G3, which I've had alumni swear that they would pay money to swing a sledgehammer at their favorite seat from G3 from 30, 40 years ago. So we have upgraded Leach Theater so that it's available. We put a central aisle in. We have upgraded another lecture hall on campus, and you're going to hear about us expanding with additional larger scale lecture facilities. In addition, one of the things that we have done is we have taken meeting rooms on campus and centralized the calendar related to that. And that is already paying dividends in terms of being able to utilize our facilities much more efficiently. So I quit right there. I'm happy to answer. Yes, sir.
A couple of slides, you pointed out that you're now requiring every student to have an experiential learning experience.
They pretty much all do already.
And you're also increasing your service learning projects.
Yes, sir.
I'm bringing this out for the folks here in Kansas City that you're probably the best example of our campuses. And when you talk to S&T graduates, they often talk about how important experiential learning was in their experience. I'm not sure that we've got some of your engineering and related STEM courses, but I'm not sure that we're using your example as much as we might. So I think since we're here in Kansas City, I'm making a point of how important that is and makes S&T a bit unique.
I will add that that there is a reason that we will have 330 or thereabouts employers on our campus this coming Tuesday for the fall, basically the job fair. If you have not, any of the curators who have not seen our fall job fair, if you have the time, I would urge you to come by and look at it. It is the most amazing thing you've ever seen. It defies description. It's a bit like saying the Grand Canyon's a big ditch.
So
we have a big one in the fall, and then we have a smaller one of over 200 in the spring. So anyway,
So that's the Chancellor's perspective. I'd like to know the student's perspective on that. So Avery?
Yeah, I can comment on the experiential learning part. I know I myself have done a lot of experiential learning things. My friends have done a lot of them too, and and I got the chance to sit down with some employers a couple weeks ago, and they also just really stressed how important those things are, the experiential learning pieces, because it helps students understand how to better fulfill those core career competencies, and they thought that S&T students are really great at it.
If I can just brag a little bit on S&T, which we're not supposed to do, but there's two things about
thank you.
The experiential learning that I don't know if the rest of the system and campuses understand, is that the experiential learning is truly interdisciplinary, maybe even anti-disciplinary, and that the teams are formed with business students because you raise your own money. There are sometimes humanities, history professors that are involved in it. And as we move as a university, we look at more interdisciplinary or anti-disciplinary moves. S&T is already kind of focused on that with the Design Center. Now, one other thing too on the job fair, which has to be discussed at some time, is S&T has a central employment office. It does not have employment offices that differ from discipline to discipline. And they have this central job office where the students can go in, people donate suits and other formal attire that the students can pick up and wear to their interviews. And it is a central office that has actually been one of the most successful parts of S&T. And so there are some things that the rest of the system, I think, can learn a little from those.
Thank you, Curator Steelman. I appreciate that. A lot of that is hinged on our reputation and our connections with the industry and asking them what they want.
Great. Thank you, Chancellor Maples. Next up is Chancellor Tom George from the UMSL campus.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to present our strategic plan. This has been a real rallying point for us at the University of Missouri St. Louis. It's many different groups across the campus. The committees have been formed, led by our provost, Kristen Sobolik, have come together at the same time that we're also gearing up for our reaccreditation with HLC. The timing couldn't be better because we have to have a strategic plan in place. Hopefully you will approve our strategic plan as we go into our reaccreditation visit. That's going to take place during the first week of November. So we're very excited about this strategic plan, and it's something that has really pulled us all together. I'm going to go through the compacts like my colleagues have done. Compacts are pillars, and it just gives you some sampling. So I'll give you some sample goals, some sample actions, but this is sort of the tip of the iceberg, and you have to go into the strategic plan itself to get the whole sense of what we're trying to do. There's a special effort within the St. Louis region to get more people with degrees, and this is being led by the regional chamber. And the regional chamber has pulled together about 15 to 20 higher education institutions, both 2 years and 4 years, and we've been working together to come up with strategies of how do we, and actually partnering as well. We compete, of course, but also partnering. And we have a goal of getting it from 32% to 40% of people within the St. Louis region that have either an associate's degree, baccalaureate, master's, or doctoral degree. We also are trying to increase, and this is an element of doing this, our number of degree-seeking students from 10,250 to 11,250. Our total enrollment, similar to UMKC, you will see it saying 17,000, but that's a little fictitious because of that, 6,500 are the dual credit students. If you pull them away, these are high school students taking our courses, we're about 10,500 students. What we're trying to do is capture back the 1,000 that we lost over the last 4 or 5 years. And we're doing it now. We're doing recruiting very well at UMKC. Our freshmen are up. We have to work more on retention, and transfers is a challenge because St. Louis Community College dropped from 29,000 to 18,000 in their enrollment in the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a challenge for us because 3/4 of our students, new students, currently are transfers. But we are focusing more on retention, focusing more on new freshmen. Our overall graduation rate, we want to take it from 60% to 65%. This is a major achievement for us because 5 years ago we were at 42%. So we've had a major jump in our overall graduation rate. And among minority students, we want to take that from 52% to 56%, and that's by 2023. We also want to increase retention of Pell recipients from 69% to 80%, and the rate of undergraduate minorities from 71% to 78%. We also want to decrease the debt by $2,000 as students. We also want to increase the employment outcomes rate of graduates from 85 to 90%. And also we want to increase student engagement on campus, and that's an important aspect. We are largely a commuter campus, but we're building up that component, if you will, of student involvement on campus. Research and creative works. We want to increase our external awards from $24 million to $39 million by 2023. Actually, this $24 million figure we're at right now, 2 years ago we were $16 million, so we're on a very fast trajectory to move that higher, and I think this $39 million is achievable. I was asked to put measurables in, so I put some measurables in journal articles. I think this is sort of correct. We want to go from 452 to 752 to 726, an increase. When I'll put quotes around journal articles because in some disciplines, conference proceedings are probably as prestigious as journal articles, like computer science and areas like that. We want to aggressively get faculty members nominated for national awards. You don't nominate, you don't get. And several years ago, we had a faculty member elected into the National Academy of Sciences. That was a very cooperative effort. Of course, he did it on his own steam and his own qualifications, but the Missouri Botanical Garden helped us with it and other different kinds of partners to get that election. We want to increase interdisciplinary work, and one area that we can do this at is the cortex areas, for example, in the accelerator space that we're partnering with Ameren in. And we want to bridge high-value research and practice, increase the level of corporate collaboration and everything else that goes with taking results from the basic research into the applied field. Community engagement and economic development, this is an area that I think we particularly shine in. There's a cooperative effort with the Coalition of Urban and Metropolitan Universities, that's called CUMU, with also the Democracy Collaborative, and it's something going across the nation now called the Anchor Initiative, where we look at institutions, urban institutions, as anchor institutions. CUMU's got about 100 universities. I happen to be president right now, so I've got a special interest in making this work. UMKC is a part of this, and just recently MU Extension became part of it because UM Extension is as much urban as they are rural. And so we want to build more of that concept of how we are an anchor. In our case, for the University of Missouri St. Louis, an anchor in St. Louis County, particularly North County. We just recently launched something called the Community Innovation and Action Center, and this replaces our Public Policy Research Center, and this was a brainchild of our provost, Kristen Sobolik, and it's just taken off. is taken off, and we're partnering with MU Extension with this. And it's looking at how we build skills, corporate partners, develop whole communities. And we've got some nice external funding now, so it's paying for itself right off the bat. We also want to track and increase the number of K through 12 students engaged in UMSL-sponsored programs. So one example is we partnered with Jennings School District, where students come from Jennings onto our campus, essentially minority students, and they work with our biology faculty doing research projects, get them interested in going into the STEM disciplines. And we also want to integrate the community engagement as a critical component of our student experience. And again, some numerical numbers. We want to increase service learning courses. We've got 156 now. We've got 60 faculty involved in this. We want to increase that by 10%. And in terms of inclusive excellence, we do have a Chancellor's, we call it the Chancellor's Cultural Diversity Council. I created that when I first came to UMSL, and it's going gangbusters. We have a waiting list of people that want to get onto that council. Not only do we talk about issues there, but we bring in scholars who actually make reports to us. It's all inclusive effort. We want to expand our successful Bridge program. This is a Saturday afternoon academy, morning and afternoon with parents and students. Thanks to Express Scripts, which actually funds this program. And we want to engage alums from diverse populations in student recruitment and retention and fundraising. We've got a highly successful African-American alumni chapter. We want to now develop chapters as well in Hispanic, Asian, International, and Veterans and LGBTQ. As we've seen before, we want to engage diverse perspectives in fact-based civil conversations. We do have experience doing this. When Ferguson erupted, we were very much engaged in these kinds of discussions, leading these discussions on our campus and within the community. And last, planning operations.
Can I stop you on the Ferguson issue?
Sure.
So this is going to maybe seem like an insensitive question, but when you had decreasing enrollment over the past few years, I've wondered whether that the proximity of that had any effect. And from across the state, it seemed to me, and I think other people in Kansas City, that UMSL was actually a great benefit during that. And it was a safe campus. It's highly diverse. And you have some of your disciplines, and you've just mentioned something that was important. Did we get to tell the story of how UMSL was helpful in that?
I feel we did. I think maybe we're better known right in St. Louis for what we did. Our enrollment that particular fall when this erupted was about 4 or 5% up from the previous year. Ferguson happened, and within about a period of 2 weeks, we dropped to 1% up. So it did affect our enrollment. Where it affected it largely was from people not in the region, because everything you said, Curator, is correct. We were viewed as leaders. We were thought leaders. We were action leaders. We went into the community, our school social work, our community psychological services, our Missouri Institute of Mental Health. We were very much engaged. People in St. Louis do know about that. But if you look for somewhere coming from out of the region, they looked and they thought St. Louis is burning, UMSL must be burning in some cases. So did it affect our enrollment? Yes. Now, I've been very careful not to be out there yelling about that as an excuse, but yes, it did. We've climbed out of that, though. I mean, that's behind us. But the experience is there, and we developed and sharpened our tools of how we can be thought leaders in this arena.
Sometimes good things come out of unfortunate circumstances, and I do know that you're viewed highly by the St. Louis community, and I'm going to ask one other question that's unrelated to Ferguson, and that is, you know that the board's number one priority is the Translational Precision Medicine Center. In addition to the college, what not-for-profit, research-oriented institutions can you bring to the table to help that be a successful center?
Well, first of all, we have some expertise right on campus. An example is the Institute of Mental Health has areas that will certainly intersect with this effort. We're very much have partnered with BJC, and that just happens to be the health area that's located within St. Louis. We can help open doors and also partner ourselves in that arena as well.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I still have.
I interrupted him.
I got a few more bullets. I'll do it fast. We also want to continue our academic program prioritization. This was led by Chris Spilling out of the Provost's office, and this is going to be an annual endeavor where we look at programs, we look at strengths, look at weaknesses, put resources in, take resources out. We're also implementing a 5-year financial planning cycle, and this is with the help of Rick Bonyak, who now has a new title within the system, so I think this is going to happen on all the campuses as well. Better align academic affairs, human resources, finance, information technology, development. Curator Phillips, I think, mentioned in one of the earlier presentations that hopefully in the future development can be more tied in to the academic mission. Certainly we want that. We're just announcing a new VC for advancement. His name is Paul Herring. He is that same position at Texas Tech, and doing his interview process, we emphasize that to him, that we want to ratchet up the overlap and the interface of academic affairs and the rest of the campus with development. And then I can stop. Thanks.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Chancellor Maples.
No, George.
If there's no further discussion.
Chancellor George, I'm sorry. Yes.
Any other questions? So if there's no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to approve the University of Missouri strategic plan as outlined in the materials for this meeting?
So moved.
John?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Are there any abstentions? Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Governance, Resource, and Planning Committee, I move that the University of Missouri strategic plan be approved as outlined in the materials for this meeting.
There a second?
Second.
You need to be more persuasive on these seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? And I think this is more significant than what we might think. That was a great job, and the strategic plans have been approved by the Board of Curators. Your motion's approved, and as part of that, going forward, Curator Lehman, I believe we're going to have accountability reports as to how well the campuses are meeting those strategic goals.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Which I think will be the first in my memory.
This concludes the Governance and Resources Planning Committee business for this meeting. May I have a motion and a second from the committee to adjourn this committee?
So moved.
John?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Great job, Curator Lehman. Now, Curator Snowden, the Academic Student Affairs Research and Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Student and Academic Affairs has 2 action items today to consider. We're going to go in a new process of having either the dean or the dean's representative explain these new programs, and Dr. Steve Graham is here to introduce those individuals.
Just do a brief introduction, and then you'll get a chance. President Choi has suggested that we have someone from the college or school that's presenting the program make the presentation, which I think is a really innovative idea, and so we'll give it a whirl today and see how it goes. First today is Dr. George Stewart, who's the chair in veterinary biopathology, to talk about a Bachelor of Science in microbiology. Dr. Stewart, step up, and I'll be standing right by in case you have questions.
Or in case I go too long and he pulls me away. Well, thank you for the opportunity. The faculty in the College of Vet Medicine and my department of vet pathobiology has a large concentration of microbiologists on the faculty. And my faculty have taken the message that we've heard over the last few years to become more engaged in instructional activities and teaching in addition to maintaining our research programs. And so my faculty, to their credit, has risen to the fore And as an end result, we have proposed an undergraduate Bachelor of Science degree program in microbiology, which we have bacteriologists, virologists, parasitologists, immunologists among our faculty, so we're well placed for it. The problem we had was that in a professional school, teaching opportunities are few and far between. And, you know, I'm a bacteriologist, I can't teach surgery. You know, it's a very specialized area. So the opportunity to try to expand into undergraduate education in a degree program that currently does not exist at the University of Missouri or as such in the state of Missouri was an opportunity that we felt was very important. So why microbiology now? Well, all you have to do is look at the newspapers and the news feeds and so on. Zika virus infections, Ebola a couple years ago, avian influenza scares, chronic wasting disease in Missouri, E. coli levels in Missouri waterways. Vaccination, good or bad, that's in the news. It's not a debatable point in the scientific community per se, but it is something that people are concerned about. Microbiome and its effect on health, antibiotic resistance, and so on. These are all important areas covered by microbiology. So as far as the University of Missouri's initiatives, microbiology is a central component of the One Health research arena. It's also important for the precision medicine. Precision medicine is in large part taking individual patients and trying to get the immune system to respond to cancer or respond to infectious diseases. Immunology is part of microbiology. The other thing is microbiomes. We have as many microbial cells in our body as we have human cells, and adjusting those changes disease susceptibility. So that's all part of that. Are students interested in microbiology? Well, ACT 2016, students taking the exam from the state of Missouri, 75 indicated that they intended to major in microbiology. And so there is a pool of Missouri students that are likely to want this major and come to MU. In addition, only 5 of the 14 SEC schools offer degrees in microbiology at the undergraduate level. And so we can draw from a larger footprint as well. If you look at schools that do have Bachelor of Science in microbiology, schools like Colorado State, Georgia, Wisconsin, Ohio State, if you adjust their overall student enrollment to Missouri, the enrollment levels in microbiology are pretty consistent, and it would translate to our student population of about 200 to 250 majors, in addition to students who are not majors who would be interested in the courses. There's a lot of good job markets, both in industry and going on to professional and graduate schools. A search I did on Monday on Indeed.com said there were 7,976 openings in microbiology, and 192 of those were in Missouri. It's in the top 50 of valuable degrees, undergraduate degrees by Bankrate.com, and if you throw out engineering disciplines, we are in the top 30. So we have the expertise, we have the faculty, we have the enthusiasm for it, there's a need for it, and there's a demand by students, and so that's why we proposed this.
Dr. Stewart, as I understand it, there's no initial cost to implementing this program, is that correct?
There's no additional faculty. We are requesting a couple of staff positions initially and 2 graduate teaching assistantships, a 3rd staff position down the road. But we intend to operate this program with existing faculty and involving new hires down the road as openings.
Are there other questions?
Dr. Stewart, thank you for all those facts. Have you looked into research dollars being raised by other microbiologists or universities with microbiology degrees? Is there an opportunity to put together some sort of package with this?
Well, one of the examples that we use in our proposal is Colorado State University, because at Colorado State University, the Bachelor of Science in Microbiology is housed in the vet school. The department that runs that program is very similar in its mission and composition to our department, and it is one of the premier microbiology research departments in the world. Has outstanding centers and things like tuberculosis research and so on. We want to get the undergraduate students in our program actively involved in the research laboratories. And we want these students to then turn around and become the graduate students that will go to the TPMC or go on to medicine or veterinary medicine.
Are there other questions of Dr. Stewart? If not, do I hear a motion and a second to approve this particular degree at the University of Missouri?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any abstentions? It appears unanimous. Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion that we approve the Bachelor of Science in Microbiology at the University of Missouri Columbia.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? A new degree program, the Bachelor of Science in Microbiology, is approved. Thank you very much for your presentation. That was very helpful and excellent.
Thank you. The next presenter is Dr. Stephanie Reed-Arndt, PhD program in health sciences. Stephanie is the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the School of Health Professions. Chris Hagelin was scheduled to appear today, but many of you know Chris. He's an excellent Dean of Health Professions, not a mechanical engineer, was building a zip line in his backyard and had a little mishap. So Stephanie's stepping in for him today. Stephanie?
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak with you. Before I go into specifics about the PhD in Health and Rehabilitation Science, let me provide some context about our school. So the MU School of Health Professions is thriving under the leadership of our dean, Chris Hagelin. We have 6 departments and we offer 15 degrees. So our faculty are engaged in teaching, research, patient care, and entrepreneurial activities. Our faculty provide services in MU hospital and clinics. We are one of 3 colleges under the MU Health umbrella, along with MU Health Care. So our faculty provide care at MU Hospital, and if you or a loved one has gotten services, occupational therapy or physical therapy services at the Missouri Orthopaedic Institute, you've probably met one of our graduates. Our health science degree is one of the largest undergraduate majors on the MU campus. And our graduates go on to get advanced degrees in healthcare, or they go straight into jobs in healthcare industries like health information technology. So our existing degree programs reflect our commitment to teaching our students to become excellent healthcare providers and to go into healthcare workforce. So this proposed PhD is about advancing the research in our disciplines. It is an interdisciplinary, research-focused doctoral program that will prepare our students for careers in health research, education, and leadership. So the PhD will engage faculty from across the school, including our departments of physical therapy, occupational therapy, communication science and disorders, and health science. And the areas of study in the program for our students will cross disciplinary lines. Students who come to the program might be practitioners who have a clinical degree, who've decided that they want to change their focus and they want to engage in research and become academic faculty. Or they will be students who've just come in straight from earning their bachelor's degree. We'll use a mentorship model, and so students will be accepted in the program to work specifically with an individual faculty member in their lab, and they'll learn through hands-on research experience. Our students will take courses with students in other disciplines taught by faculty within the School of Health Professions and also across the MU campus. There are several compelling reasons to offer this program. First, there's a significant workforce shortage in healthcare research in Missouri and the nation in our particular disciplines. Recent reports indicate that there are hundreds of unfilled faculty jobs in a given year, and there are not enough programs to meet this need. The MU School of Health Professions is uniquely positioned to address this shortage. We're a successful School of Health Professions on a campus with a thriving academic health center. We've proposed a program that will be the only such PhD program across all institutions of public higher education in the state, and there's only one similar program in one of the private institutions in the state. The program will advance MU's missions as a member of the AAU and also as a land-grant university by promoting the creation and application of new scientific knowledge in key areas of health. It fits with MU's strategic plan, contributing to several of the goals identified in the MU campus's response to the Missouri Compacts. So first, this program will contribute to our goal of doubling research expenditures by increasing interdisciplinary research. So the faculty members in the School of Health Professions have research programs that fit under the STEM umbrella. And so as such, they're eligible for funding through NIH, NSF, and other federal granting agencies. Also, this program will help the MU campus achieve the goal of increasing doctoral degree conferrals by 30% over the next 10 years. And additionally, it will boost our school's research publication and citation productivity, which, as you know, are key metrics for AAU membership. Importantly, this program also ties in with the university's goal of creating the translational precision medicine complex. NIH specifically states that precision medicine takes into account individual variability in genes, environment, and lifestyle in every person. So we are among the disciplines that address the environment and lifestyle factors. This PhD program will grow our research in areas including public health, health promotion, and behavioral risk factors for illness and mortality. So we believe that now is an ideal time to start this program based on the capacity of our school and on MU's emphasis on interdisciplinary education and research. The School of Health Professions became autonomous only 18 years ago, and so now we have a critical mass of faculty and research excellence and expertise that will allow us to succeed in offering the program. We're on solid financial footing based on our popular and well-run degree programs. And MU's identified success in interdisciplinary research as a priority, and this is one important way for our school to contribute to those goals. As I indicated, our market analysis has identified a workforce shortage and few other institutions offering these kinds of degrees. There's also a high student demand for this kind of program. So we surveyed over 200 of our professional program students, and 35% of them said that they would be interested in applying to a program at MU like this one if one was offered. So the program will bring in new students, as there's no comparable program within the UM system or on our campus. Importantly, this program is going to capitalize on existing resources within our school and at MU. The proposal budget is conservative, and it does not request any additional funding from the university. So we're following the lead set by President Choi and identifying our strategic priorities and reallocating resources to invest in those. You'll see if you look at the program budget that there is about $100,000 cost annually, and that is monies that we will cover from within our school based on allocations, strategic reallocations that we're making. So we really think that this doctoral program is going to be transformational for our school. It's going to allow us to grow our research and expand our ability to contribute to MU's AAU and land grant missions. So that's my summary of the program. I'm happy to answer questions if you all have some.
Are there any questions of Dr. Arndt?
I'm just curious, it's a Doctor of Philosophy degree?
Yeah, right. So research doctorates are PhDs, doctorates of philosophy in specific areas. So for example, I'm a psychologist, but I have a doctorate of philosophy in psychology. So it's the same concept. This is a doctorate of philosophy in a particular area, health and rehab science. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what kind of jobs, are the jobs that come out of this educational background purely academic, or are there jobs available in the private sector as well?
Right, so that's a great question. We know that there are a lot of academic job openings, and that's where we get the numbers of over 300 unfilled openings each year in our disciplines. But we also think that our graduates can go into industry. We have faculty who are engaged in collaborations with engineering, for example. And so when you think about rehabilitation, a lot of our faculty are involved in like stroke rehabilitation, for example. One of our researchers is doing some work looking at engineering solutions in stroke rehab. So I absolutely think there's going to be opportunities in industry.
Any other questions? I now ask that if there's no further questions, that have a motion and a second to approve the Doctor of Philosophy, Health, and Rehabilitation Science at MU.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any abstentions? Mr. Chairman, it looks unanimous, and I would move that this particular degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Health and Rehabilitation Science at MU be approved.
Thank you. Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The new degree is approved. Dr. Graham, I think your new way of proceeding with the deans was very successful. I'd let the other board members tell you at some time, but
A little bit more
we enjoyed
information?
hearing from them.
Okay.
I did.
Thank you very much.
The materials that you submitted with the two proposed degrees were really helpful. They were extensive and very helpful.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hope.
What I'm going to do with the, oh, sorry.
Chairman, shouldn't we?
You should adjourn.
Adjourn?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm all revved up.
No further discussion. If I could have a motion to adjourn the Student and Academic Affairs Committee.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Unanimous vote, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to call an audible if everybody will allow it, so we can make full use of this morning and allow more time for the important closed sessions this afternoon. I've talked to Curator Graham, and he has a short audit committee here, and so with the permission
Yes,
of the board and Curator Graham, I'd like to proceed
The
to
audit
the audit
committee
committee.
has only one informational item, and I would commend to the members of the board the 9 pages of report that Chief Audit Executive Michelle Peranio has given to us. It's very informative, but at this time, I'll call the audit committee to order and call upon Michelle Peranio to highlight the audit work that has been done, the internal audit work that's been done since June of 2018, and also the status of the management action plans that she has supervised. Michelle?
Thank you, Curator Graham. So, again, I'll just touch real briefly on 2 areas: the work that we completed and results of our work to substantiate implementation of management action plans related to previously completed audits. At the June board meeting, the annual audit plan was approved with 54 audits and projects, and since that time, we've added 2 projects. And in addition, 11 audits rolled forward from the 2018 plan, 5 of which have been completed and are included in this quarterly report. 5 are in process, and 1 has not yet started. It's dependent on another audit being completed. So since the last board meeting, we completed the MU School of Medicine Department of Surgery audit. Our work indicated that outcomes of the financial processes in that department are accurate, but that a lot of the work to complete the processes is manual in nature and somewhat cumbersome. So management is realigning staff reporting relationships so those processes can be redesigned and be much more efficient. Work for the system-wide purchasing card consulting project has been completed. And as a reminder, this was a retrospective review of purchasing card transactions that completed prior to implementation of the new electronic approval process. So we completed that work of looking at the transactions, used what we learned there to assess against the new approval process to see if a lot of those issues would have been addressed. I will say that no issues of fraud were identified during the time period and the sample covered by our work, and we are still working through the process with this report with management. But we do have 2 primary recommendations, both of which align with the direction of leadership through the transformational work that's underway. To give consideration of an overarching structure for managing the procure-to-pay process, to integrate management of the One Card program with other account payable activities. And one leadership team over all these activities would improve the likelihood of alignment with overall strategic direction. And also, leadership is working towards implementation of a back-end monitoring process for purchasing cards, and we believe it would be good to expand this monitoring work to include all types of purchasing. It would give additional insight into spending patterns, policy noncompliance, any unauthorized spending, and would assist in reinforcing a culture of accountability and ethical business practices.
Before you move off of those numbers, this may be a typo or just a short explanation, but what we had to look at coming into the meeting was that in 2018, we had a total of 11 audits going on. But in 2019, we have 60 audits planned. I'm reading, says status of audits from the 2019 audit plan, 50 audits not started, 5 audits in process, actually it's 51. Was that a typo?
No, this is, what this is combining both plans together to kind of give a sense of, for all of the audit work we currently have going on, the 11 from last year's plan and the 54 that are on the current plan plus the 2 that were added, this is where we are in the process.
Are we increasing our number of audits substantially?
We continue to get, yes, we continue to get additional requests for our work.
Okay.
And we weigh that against the risks and the capacity and determine the priority of that.
That's fine.
As additional answer there, the requests typically come from the General Counsel's office, CFOs, or provost, typically, is that correct?
Yes, they're coming from a high level. It's not just anyone calling us. And we are increasing the amount of what I would call investigations that are necessary and important to do, but they're just a little bit of a different category from audits. And in the future, I may need to break that out more clearly to start accounting for that.
So we or you have random audits, which we do periodically, that are not requested, but that we do, and then we have a bunch that are requested. Is that right?
We have the audits that are on the annual audit plan that was approved and came through the risk assessment process. But throughout the year, things occur and require some assistance from internal audit to get to the bottom of what are the issues and going in and looking at an area that at the time of the risk assessment, it wasn't an issue.
Okay. Thank you. I've got another question, but I'll wait for you to get to it.
Okay. So just as it's closing out the kinds of audits we do for safeguarding of assets and around the financial processes, we do have 4 audits related to this that are almost completed. Either the reports are drafted, testing has been completed, and we're drafting the report. And so some of this we know for university bank accounts, it's low risk, and we're looking at the others. We don't think there's going to be major high risk, but some opportunities for improvement and combining some processes. And we do have, in the fiscal year 2019 audit plan, we also have an audit related to looking in 2 areas for, again, deeper dives into purchasing cards, and we are probably going to expand that to other expenses. And we're also going to be doing the formal testing of the new purchasing card process. So the second area just to cover is our management action plan statuses. We conducted follow-up. We conduct follow-up twice a year to verify the status of the management action plans. And for this time period that we just completed, 14 action items were due, 12 were completed, which is 86%. The other 2 action items were assigned revised due dates, and I would like to touch briefly on those 2 areas. One is the MU Health HIPAA Business Associate Agreement audit that we did a year ago. And when we did our follow-up for the first time with this audit, we agreed to work with procurement and system privacy officer to provide assistance in generating options to resolve the process issues and to improve the ability to be able to get and track business associate agreements which are related to protected health information and be able to pull a list out of the system. We completed that work and we've provided those options, and both procurement and the privacy officer have worked collaboratively and have come up with a phased plan to get the procurement system where it needs to be able to do this work, and to also get processes in place so we know that we're getting a business associate agreement when needed. It's being overseen by the privacy officer, and we just make that process really good. All of that work will be completed by July 31st of 2019. Some of those phases will be completed sooner, but that will be the end date when all of that work is to be completed. The action plan for the MU College of Veterinary Medicine also has a revised due date of November 30th.
So before you go to veterinary medicine, let me refer to the board materials. That puts it, the HIPAA Business Associate Program. It's listed as a high risk in our materials, and I think that may be what jumps up our report risk for the School of Medicine, maybe. I don't know if it's related, but we have a medium risk for the School of Medicine surgery program. The high risk on HIPAA of all the things you have is maybe the most concerning. And you said, we'll get something more in July of next year. I've pointed out before that there are hospitals here in Kansas City that have had two different issues, unauthorized credit disclosure and HIPAA issues, and get penalized millions of dollars for that. Are we giving you the right resources, and are you able to go outside to make sure that we reduce that risk on HIPAA exposure, for example, so that it's not high? Hopefully it's a low exposure to the extent it can be. I think we've talked about that as being a concern now and in the future. We're so heavily invested in MU healthcare, we need to make sure we get that right.
Yes, and 2 years ago when we did this, the first audit, the Office of Civil Rights, who oversees the whole privacy HIPAA piece, they were aggressively going around and doing audits of healthcare organizations. And that was why it was rated as high risk, because we couldn't get a definitive list produced of what vendors we have BAAs with. Do we have BAAs with vendors? Yes. It's very difficult to get a list to see which. Since that time, the Office of Civil Rights has cut way back on audits, and it's not as high a risk that they're going to show up. So we believe that, but it's still extremely important to get this process nailed down. They have the time without the pressure of a government organization coming in to audit them to get it nailed down, and that's why we worked with them to generate some options for how they can use the procurement systems and which pieces of them they could use to really track this and clean that up, and also to get processes for the privacy officer to make sure the privacy officer is more involved and integrated when those decisions are being made.
Well, we shouldn't be
You're
dependent.
right. It's
We shouldn't be dependent on the federal government coming around and doing audits.
No, it just
and
gives us a little more breathing room.
Another year? I'm alarmed by 2 years ago, we were looking for information, and now we're at high risk. I think we need to get some help. And there are consultants out there that can advance us to state-of-the-art in terms of HIPAA protection.
The phasing of the process, it will allow them to get a handle on where they are with their BAAs and get an interim list that they can then determine is more definitive as they get through. So it's not that they're sitting there with no lists and no BAAs and they don't know what those are. They just need to improve it so they can quickly pull that information together.
So I'm not a HIPAA expert, I'm just expressing concern when I see high risk.
It is a concern.
In July next year.
It is a concern.
All right.
And we are keeping on them. I'm working with the Chief Compliance Officer at MU Health. She is staying on top of it. It is getting attention, I can assure you that.
So, Michelle, who owns this issue? Is it your office or is it Jennifer May's office?
It would be Jennifer May. They own the issue to manage this and make sure the right things are in place. Our role is to really go in and assess and give them information to see where they are in that process. So Jennifer May is very aware of this, as is the privacy officer, and the people in procurement are very committed to fixing their system so they can track this. All the pieces are there. It's a matter of how quickly they can move to get it completed.
So, I mean, I think ongoing compliance is owned by Jennifer May's office. The audit of that compliance is certainly Michelle's, but is there any reason that the audit of it cannot be moved up to a time prior to July of next year?
You mean that they can't get the action plan completed more quickly?
I think he's expressed concern of where it falls on the schedule of upcoming audits.
Can we move it up on the schedule?
Yeah.
Oh, the July of 2019 is when their next action plan is due. We can move that up. We can go back and talk to them and see if they can move their work up more quickly.
This is probably over all of our heads, but you hear of our concern, and Jonathan hears of our concern. We're going to be maybe investing even more so in MU Health, but we have to get a grasp on these risks, and that's one of the big ones.
It is a big one.
It's not just an individual who has an individual action, but when you're dealing with the associates, that's where the risk is.
The combination of the whole HIPAA security and privacy is a big risk issue for
Right.
healthcare in general.
Okay.
It's always inherently high risk. The second action item that has a revised due date is the MU College of Veterinary Medicine of November 30th, 2018. The original issue around this was being able to perform reconciliations between the billing system and PeopleSoft. Since the audit, they're implementing a new billing system, which will actually give them the ability to do reconciliations much better. And so as they've worked through this, they can do reconciliations at a transactional level with cash and checks. They can do them at a high aggregate level with credit cards, so they are doing reconciliations. They're very close to having the credit card piece worked through integrating between those two systems. So we don't see this as a high risk because they are able to do reconciliations. So this concludes the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any additional questions of Michelle? If not, that does complete the informational report of the audit committee, and the chair of the committee would entertain a motion to conclude the business of the committee.
So moved.
As a reminder, the curator members are Burnsick, Farmer, and Snowden. Would someone like to
Second.
make a motion?
I made it. I said so moved. We got a second.
Good. We have a motion and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. The audit committee concludes its business for the morning.
Thank you very much. A couple more quick audibles just to clean up some things for this afternoon. We're going to have a resolution for executive session for the Compensation and Human Resources Committee for the closed session. And since we got a few minutes, could I have a motion?
Yes, I'm going to, as chair, make the motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? From Burnsick, Chapman, or Farmer?
Second. So moved.
Need a roll call vote.
All those in favor?
No, you have to do a roll call.
Got to do a roll call.
Curator Burnsick?
Yes.
Curator Chapman?
Yes.
Curator Farmer?
Yes.
Curator Phillips?
Yes.
All votes in favor.
Thank you. And one last question to the board. Dr. Agrawal has said he can be ready to begin around 1:05 versus 1:15. And again, the reason I'm doing this, I think there's some fairly significant discussions in this afternoon closed sessions. Does anybody object to that? Dr. Agrawal will start at 1:05. Okay, that'll conclude this morning's business. Thank you all.